Hi, I'm Deb, drug addict, alcoholic. I've gone through all these 12 steps with a sponsor. I'm going to push this little guy away. And in going through all 12 steps, I have a connection with God. God's my higher power. I love God. And I practice. I'm nervous. I don't even know why, but I'm just going to say that. Anyway, so I've gone through all 12 steps, and God is my higher power. I finished all my amends, and I'm just letting God tell me what I'm supposed to say right now. Okay. And I practice every step with all my heart. I have a home group. I inventory every day. I write inventory every day. I meditate every day, and I pray all day long. I work with women. This is probably one of the, maybe it is. Oh, thank you, Denise.
Kathy, too, you can blame her.
All right. So I qualified. Did everybody hear that? Excellent. All right. So I'm not nervous anymore. Thank you for that. And I don't even know why I'm nervous. I just think I am. Whatever. So I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to be in this program. I'm grateful to have gone through these steps and have done a big book step study. I'm not going to go into too much of my background. I'll just tell you that at my own hand, I chose to satisfy the fear that I had that was really manifesting as anger. And I used substance, men, I don't think Amazon was around then. And I used buying and people and attention seeking and eating and everything. I just used exercise. That was a big one too. So I did all this stuff, and I was really, really angry, and everything didn't get better, and I just kept upping the ante. And my final end was I was addicted to all kinds of substances, and I overdosed a bunch of different times. And I'm not a stupid person. I was a person in pain, but I didn't understand at the time. At the time, I just felt like I was crazy. Like, what is wrong with me? I was the jaywalker. I just kept doing the same stuff over and over again, and I couldn't get out of it. And so someone was very kind to me. I was at a meeting, and I was complaining again. In the back, because I wasn't sitting in the front, of course. And I was in the back complaining about somebody and this and the chairs and the coffee and the smoke and whatever. And the person said, I got this great meeting. Service work right there. Before I even knew what service work was, I was having service work given to me. So the person said, I got this great meeting I want to go to. So as a friend, I thought, sure, let's go. So I go to Big Book Step Study, and it was far away, and I can't remember the town, but I'll remember it pretty soon. But anyway, we walked in, sit down, we go to the meeting, and what are they on? Sex. We're not on that tonight, but the point is that you could hear a pin drop in this meeting. This woman spoke with the level of integrity and honesty that just blew me away. And I knew I was in the right place, but I didn't feel right. So long story short, I did this work. The first sponsor that I asked to work with me, would you work with me? And we're on service work, working with others. It's so funny how I started this whole thing. I lied to her, just like that. Are you still using? Do your kids know you use? Blah, blah, blah. These questions she was asking me, the pertinent ideas. And I was just like, boom, just like that lie. And then as we got to know each other, she made the discovery that I lied, and she fired me. That was awesome. That's the beginning of service work for me. It was the first time my life coming in here before I did this work, and I can still do it, was to lie a lot. I came from an environment where it was pretty violent, and in order for me to let you think that I was okay, I had to tell you a lot of stories about what I was really like. So I used that same kind of coping mechanism in the universe. And so here I was at the very end, and I was just crazy. My hair was falling out, and I looked horrible, which was really important to me. And I lied to this woman, the one woman who wants to stick her hand out and help me. Talk about a jaywalker. So I bring this up because I want whoever's sitting in here and hasn't done the work yet, or if you're doing the work, or if you're not practicing your work, or if you're thinking of the work, or you stopped working, I think we all come from the same place. Maybe you don't lie as much as I did, or can, but the point is that I chose this instead of the God source that it describes in this chapter. So if I kept going to this thing here that told me it was a good idea to drink and crash cars, and then maybe that was not a good idea because you could catch me, it could smell, so then how about I go to heroin? Great. So those kind of thoughts, that insanity thinking, is what I did before. And I can still do it if I don't do all the steps that come before 12, including 12. So when it says working with others to me is like, it's like this, it's huge. It's not just working with a sponsee. Okay, it's working with myself first. I have to make sure that I check up with God, that I am on my knees still in a state, for me personally, of humility. I want to be on my knees when I wake up in the morning and have gratitude about how I feel about my life, that my bed was soft, that I have a place to live, that I have a job that pays for my bills. You know, you can see where I'm going with this, so that I can still come back to ground zero and say, I am so grateful that I'm not using anymore. So I go from there, and I do a practice. I do the stuff that it tells me to do. There's steps that we went over, you guys went over a few weeks ago, and I do that kind of inventory every single day. I do it because I described to you what I was like before I came in here. I will go, as default, back to that person that lies and the person that decides to make decisions that are really dangerous, but they come off like, okay. The book describes it, they use the word, what do they call it? Mental twist? Yes, right. Twisting of my mentalness. But anyway, so I work this program with all my heart. I think that 12 isn't just about sponsees. It's about the whole process of connecting in the universe and making sure that I'm clean. My heart, my motive is good here, and then I go out from here. So how did I do this? I had to get another sponsor, because the first one fired me. And then I was trying to tell the truth and do the work, but I didn't know how to tell the truth, because the truth wasn't the truth for me. I was so used to lying. How you doing? Great. Where you going? Nowhere. How's it going? It's fabulous. How, like whatever I'd say, it was just like, what do you want me to say? How do you want me to talk? What do you want me to do? This is how I lived, but I didn't know how to be different. And so as a consequence, I would relapse, all right? And then I did this work, and I was instructed, God guide my pen, write an inventory, say a third step prayer. And I did it with sincerity, but I didn't really know what I was doing. I asked God to relieve me of the bondage of me. I'm asking God to help me stop being me with self-will. But I don't know how to do that, because if I did, I would have done it without you guys. You see what I'm saying? So I didn't know how to do it, so I had someone help me do it. So I go and I write this inventory, and I do all the stuff I'm supposed to do, and I say it out loud to God, and then I start, acknowledging that I have things that are off neutral, that they call them defects, but I say they're off center. I'm just kind of swinging from one side to the other, and I'm not in the middle. I'm not neutral in my life. So I start doing this inventory stuff, and then ladder steps, and I start being asked, because I made a commitment in my third step that I was going to give someone else this message, give someone else this process if they needed it. So here comes the service work. And I remember thinking to myself, man, whoever's going to get me as a sponsor, I don't know. Because at the time, I didn't have any tolerance. I had a mouth. I felt I was going to tell people what I thought about them if they weren't going to do it right. Get in line, step it up, let's go. And so I had to be redirected very often about how to do this work. I made lots and lots of mistakes. I made every mistake. So I talked to you about neutrality and service work, because I really believe in my heart that's where God is in the neutral. God doesn't care if you're overshooting or stuffing it. God wants me to be in the middle, because I swing back and forth. And how do I get back to neutral always? Is because I do this work. Just keep coming back to neutral. What does neutral look like? I'm not buying into your stories, and I'm not telling you mine. I'm just kind of walking through the middle here, not banging into anybody, not causing any harm. I'm trying. So they describe in the book like how you're supposed to work with people, and I've done probably everything wrong in the book that you're not supposed to do. The only thing I haven't done is like fight with people. I haven't gotten any fist fights with any sponsees. And I haven't done anything like that, but I've done things like pick people up and take them shopping because they asked me to. No, but I'm talking shopping like McDonald's, and then we don't do any work at all. All I'm doing is taking them to CVS or shopping, they get a pack of cigarettes or whatever, and I'm realizing that listen girl, God's talking to you through service work. You have no boundaries. Oh, so I write inventory later about how this person pissed me off, and then of course you read it to someone and you discover that it's really not about them, it's about me. I have no boundaries. So service work isn't just let me help you get through this process. It's about let's all do this and connect, show kindness and love to each other. And I learned how to say no. I'm not going to take you to Rentham Outlet because that has nothing to do with Big Book Step Study. We're going to stay on the process, and maybe we'll go to McDonald's and sit there, but we're not going to go wholesale shopping. And so you think this is funny, but it's because I had to reflect on my own behavior, why I was angry. Working with others, I have gotten resentments because I had to learn about myself. I also had to learn that working with others, sometimes I had to find out that I was a codependent. I wanted success. I wanted you to succeed because if you succeed, then I succeed, then I look good and you look good, we all look good. And so that's just all just crap, but that's really what I was doing. I wanted you to be successful because then it would mean that I'm a good sponsor. And I had to learn to let that go because it's none of my business. However, the consequence of that is that I would work with people way past when I should. And God would always come in and explode it. And God's awesome. Because God would take people away from me that I did not have the power to say, hey, I can't work with you anymore because this is horrible. But, because for whatever reason, and so I would say, the person would come to me and say, you know what, I decided I need to work with someone else because you just keep wanting me to write about the truth and about the truth. And I have the truth, and I don't need to keep writing about the truth. And I say to myself, there's the truth right there. Okay, so the truth is that you're going to lay me off. You're going to fire me because we made a deal through the third step prayer that I was going to take you through every step with integrity, and I'm going to work the step the way I was instructed to work all these steps. And if you don't want to do that, then I'm going to lay myself off, or you're going to fire me and lay me off. But God takes care of that whole thing. So again, working with others has taught me boundaries, integrity, self-esteem. It's taught me that I have pride, which is not necessarily a good thing, but not a bad thing either. The neutral thing is to say, that let's have a conversation. Is this working? Something that I would never, ever do. I would just go like this. Okay, let's go. Next day, next page. Come on, wrap it through. Move it on. And that is not what this process is about. The process is about, for me anyway, when I pray and I meditate and I'm connecting with people, and I get that feeling that whenever I see that person that I'm working with, that I start to become excessively chipper and happy and try to be something I'm not. God talks to me through all kinds of stuff in this work. So this one line in this chapter that always cracks me up, and I don't know why, because I'm just going to tell you. It says here, don't deal with him when he is very drunk, unless he is ugly. What is that? Right? It says, don't deal with him or her when they're very drunk, unless they're ugly, and the family needs your help. And so that is, to me, is such a confusing statement. But I have learned that I don't have to worry about whether or not you're going to be ugly, or I'm going to be ugly, or your husband's going to call me, or someone's going to, because all these things have happened. Spouses have called me and told me how I should be doing the work with the other person. And I've learned that my answer is awesome. It's God is good. Besides checking with a sponsor, the answer is always, okay, that's it. It's not my job. I don't have to say, you should, you shouldn't, or I'll say, this is how it was done, this is how I work the process, and okay. God's going to take over the rest. It says not to moralize or lecture. Done it. It talks about the mental twist. Now, why working with others do we care about the mental twist? Do they talk about your mental twist or my mental twist? I can't see your mental twist, but I can feel mine. So why do they talk about mental twist? For me, they talk about mental twist is because it's what happens to me when I start to not live in integrity and do this work. If I don't work with you, then what happens to me is I start thinking about me. So just from a real simple perspective, if you do this work, right, if I'm doing this work and I'm working with other people, and I'm sitting there working with somebody, who am I thinking of right then? Hopefully, that person, right? I'm not thinking about me. So I'm absence of self. I'm absence of self because I'm working with that person. The mental twist comes to me when I just think about me and I'm not working with anyone, which has never been my case. I've always worked with someone, thank you, God. The other part of the mental twist for me is that I cannot give you something I don't practice. God will always reveal to me when I'm not practicing this stuff. If my work is shoddy, if I'm not praying, if I'm not meditating, if I'm not on my knees in a this is just me, in a feeling of humility and gratitude, it shows up. Because I start to do things that are part of the mental twist. Now, why do we care about the mental twist? To me, the mental twist precedes behavior that is close to using for me. I use in different ways. Like I haven't used substance, but I use behavior through gossiping, eating, isolation, over-exercising, Amazon. So we want to speak about alcoholism as an illness. And tell me if I'm talking too long, so I'll stop.
Oh, I know you can go.
No, I don't want to keep going. So we want to speak about alcoholism as an illness. And you guys have all heard this analogy when someone says that if you're diabetic, would you not treat it with insulin? So I speak about alcoholism as an illness because I know it is. I know it's a deep, dark illness that will get me. It will kill me. And I know it will if I don't do this work. So the key for me to staying on the right side with God is to do this work through working with others. Now, working with others doesn't mean just a sponsee. I'm also a nurse. Working with others means how I treat people that I take care of, how I treat people that are driving down the road, how I treat the person in front of me in the checkout counter, how I treat my family, how I treat people when they gossip and look me right in the face, and I want to hear that gossip. What do? My job is not to correct you and shame you. My job, working with others, is to just go, okay, I'm going to go to the bathroom, or something to extricate myself from the situation because I'm a human. I want to hear the juicy gossip. It talks about alcoholism, about being hopeless and having hopelessness with the disease. But this is the reverse. We do this work, you don't have to be hopeless anymore. Because if you're doing the work, you're praying, which means you're having communication with God. You're meditating, so you're listening to God. You're doing an inventory, so you can reflect on yourself. You're connected to a sponsor, so you can rat yourself out. You're working with other people, so that for some reason, I don't know why God does this all the time, but like you'll get a sponsee and they'll have the same problems you do. Ha ha, funny, right? Not. And so you get to see in real time what your actions are doing to the universe. Like what, when you do this thing, it's caused 16 people to be sad or upset or hurt or whatever. You actually see yourself through the sponsee doing this thing. And to me, God is so amazing. It says faith alone is insufficient, right? Faith must be accompanied by self-sacrifice and unselfish constructive action. I am going to tell you up here that I am not Mother Teresa, right? I don't pick up the phone every time and jump with joy and have a jig. Sometimes I don't want to talk to someone, and it's because I want to be selfish, but the important thing is I pick up the phone. Just do it, because it's what's supposed to happen. I'm supposed to be, in communication with this person, because that's what God wants me to do. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that every second of my day is spent in service work. I have to, like I said, be neutral and practice my connection with God, which is that I need to also refuel myself. And sometimes that just means being quiet. And praying. It says, when we tell people about this work, they want to know how we got better, which is the spiritual experience, which is you've changed. I've changed. How have I changed? I don't use anymore, but it's so much bigger than that. I'm not out there hurting people, and I reflect on my own behavior on a regular basis. So this is supposed to be the hook and catch. People come up to you and go, wow, I used to be like this, and now you're like that. Well, I want to do this too. Teach me. And so the interesting thing is, it looks great in the beginning, right? Yeah, I'll teach you, sure. And then you explain to them about the self-appraisal, but it's not solitary, that we worked with God, we worked with a sponsor, we did a process, we connect, we let people, we expose what we have here. And so what I think is funny is, in the beginning, sometimes it's very, I work with women that are very enthusiastic, and then as we get closer to the truth, doing the truth, sometimes they run away with their hair on fire, but it's not because of I hope to God anymore because I'm pounding them over the head. It's not because of that anymore. Sometimes it makes all of us sometimes squirm, but I think when we pass through that process of the truth, through this work, and through connecting in fellowship, through doing this stuff, the spiritual experience on the other side of that, for me, has changed my life. And I don't want to go into too much of this because I'll start crying, because I always end up crying. But, I'm going to cry. So my dad was a mean person when I was growing up, right? I'm going to end with this story. And my dad was a really mean person when I was growing up, and he was violent, and he was whatever he was. And so, I'm going to cry. Anyway, so I spent my whole life trying to get this guy to love me, right? My whole life I wanted this guy to love me. So anyway, I do this work, and then he starts to get really sick. So in May, he got so sick he starts dying, right? And so I do this work, and what happens because of this work? Working with others, I'm able to do whatever he wants me to do without telling him what to do, because I'm a nurse, right? I can do donuts around everybody who's coming in there, but I keep my mouth shut. And I just say, what do you want me to do for you, Dad? That's it. And so by the time my dad dies, my dad becomes the person that I always wanted. Like, I know it sounds really drama, but it's the truth. I was able to keep my mouth shut, let the man die the way he wanted to die, and I just sat there and I just wiped his butt or took him to a shower or did whatever I had to do. But he turned into this person where all of a sudden God came in and opened his eyes, and he just looked at me and he goes, you're so good. You're so nice. I love you so much. That guy never once said that to me. So when I tell you this stuff is magical, and that working with others is so much bigger than just working with a sponsee or a sponsor, it is huge. It gives you the opportunity to come out into the universe and hurt no one. And also at the same time, in my case, look at my dad and say, I'm going to miss you. You know, a lot of times when people pass away or get really sick, we don't have an opportunity to be exquisitely honest with our pain and our discomfort and our sadness and our fear, because who's next? We're next. Parents die, we're next. So all that stuff's wrapped in. And so what this process has done by working with others has allowed me to have neutral boundaries most of the time with my dad's passing, and experience an unbelievable love. And I think that this kind of understanding of all the steps, when you work all the steps with your heart, which is God, brings us to a place where this is how we live. This is going to be your life. And isn't that awesome? That's it.